Hey you guys, welcome back to Rebuilding a Kick-Ass Life. I am Emily and I am on a journey of rebuilding my kick-ass life and hoping that you guys will follow along as well. I am going to make this video short today. I'm answering your questions. So thank you for the new subscribers. I've had a little bit of an influx in the last few days and I have 3 questions that I want to answer today. Do you ever get itchy when you wear a hat? Your head? Okay, so the 3 questions are, you touched on hyperindependence in the last video. Can you elaborate on that? Yes, I can. And why was your divorce so expensive? How do I avoid that? I can answer that. And the other question was, can you drop your skincare routine? Okay, well, my skincare routine, I worked for L'Oreal for 20 some years. And I'm going to give you a little secret from L'Oreal. Well, it's actually not from L'Oreal, but it was one of our makeup artists at the time. She used to shave her face. I know, weird, right? And she's like, oh, you should do it. The makeup application is so much nicer. And I was like, no, I don't want to get like a face full of stubble. Well, you guys, I have been shaving my face for probably 20 years now. And so I can tell you that I'm not recommending you do this because I don't want to be responsible if you do get stubble. Maybe do a little patch test or something. But I've been shaving my face for about 20 years. I know it's so sexy and I wonder why I'm single. Attractive. But the makeup application is really nice and it's also a great way to exfoliate the skin. So there's one little secret for you. I'll have a video to prove at the end that I do shave my face. Weird. Anyway, I'm digressing. Also, just to let you know, I've had some questions about my parents. So my dad has left the hospital today. He's been moved to a respite. Do you even know what a respite is? I didn't even know respites existed. So a respite is like a short-term care. Say you are the primary caregivers of, I don't know, maybe a sick child or parents or whatever, and you want to go on vacation, you can take them into a respite and it's sort of short-term care while you're away. So he's been placed there because the plan is for him to go back home, although I don't think that's a great idea. He's had 4 strokes, is to go back home in 2 weeks. And the reason why I can't go home right now is because my mother is home recouping from having run over herself with her car. I know, you can't make this shit up. I swear to God, she ran over herself with her car. And I have to laugh because if I don't laugh, I will cry. And I have been crying. Anyway, she's black and blue, pretty banged up. And I actually think that there must be a break in her leg. So the tire ran over her right leg. So she is going to the hospital today with my sister, which leads me to hyper-independence. I finally got the courage to ask my sisters, there's 4 of us, for help. And so why do I say that? My sisters are actually great and they do help, but my mom tends to call me a lot. And I think it's because I am self-employed. And so I think she thinks that it's easier for me. And she calls me a lot for help. Things like, here's an example. Last year they wanted to go to Portugal and she didn't ask me to come, but I knew that they wanted to go, but they're elderly. They can't navigate the airport very well. There's a real language barrier here in Canada and they're older. And so I knew she really wanted to go. So I'm like, well, guess I'm going to Portugal. So I went, I took them. I didn't take them. I mean, they paid their own way and everything, but I accompanied them in order to help them through the airport and all that stuff. And then just recently they needed their passports renewed and they have to, because they're not Canadian citizens, they're still Portuguese residents living in Canada. I had to take them to Toronto to the Portuguese embassy, but they live 3 hours away. So I had to go pick them up, bring them to Toronto, and then take them back the next day. So there's just lots of times where it's me, and I think it is because I'm self-employed, and I would never ask for help. And that leads me to hyper-independence. What is hyper-independence? So being independent on its own is a good thing. When you're independent, you're resourceful, you can stand on your own 2 feet, you can generally navigate your way through life, and being independent is a good thing. However, when you are hyper independent, and by the way, hyper independence it's a defense mechanism. It is a way, it's a survival mechanism. It is a way to keep yourself from getting hurt from being let down, from being upset, from having the feeling that you can't count on anyone. And hyper-independence comes about as a result of having been let down in the past, having been disappointed by people, and having been really left to your own devices to handle things on your own. And when you have a lifetime of having people in your life letting you down consistently and constantly, you would rather have the pain and the struggle of doing things on your own, even though you're overwhelmed and it's daunting. You would rather have that pain and struggle than have the pain of, again, being disappointed and being let down by others. And so when you become hyper independent, you have a really hard time asking for help, and you have a really hard time letting people in and letting the walls down. The problem with being hyper independent is that it can be very isolating. It can lead to loneliness. It can lead to depression, because really, innately, we all have this need for human connection. We all have this need to feel wanted and loved and taken care of and like we're not alone, and have this need. This is why I love YouTube and I love my Instagram. It's a community, and I love the feeling of belonging to community and having the support and having the encouragement and feeling like you are part of something, that you are not alone. And so I didn't even know I was hyper independent. It was actually pointed out to me. And then I did the research, did the work on it, and thought, oh, yeah, hyper independent. I have a hard time asking for help. I have a hard time saying I can't do it. I need help. I have a hard time even saying that I'm not okay, or I'm having a bad day, or I just keep it all bottled in, because we just keep on keeping on, because that's all we know, and that is how we have been able to get through life. Some of us have not had the luxury of being soft, do you know what I mean by that? Sometimes I can come across as being a little bit harsh, or so in control that I can come across as a little bit bold and hard. But that, again, is just, I haven't had the luxury in my lifetime of having the ability to just have somebody say, I got you. I'll take care of it. Take a breather. And so when you are consistently let down and disappointed and people aren't showing up, you just go on the defensive, and you're like, I don't care. I don't need anybody anyway. I can do it myself. I can take care of myself. I can do this all by myself. I don't need you. I got this. But be careful with that, because we all do need human connection, and we all do need to feel a sense of belonging and cared for and loved and nurtured and protected. Especially as women, we feel we need that. So I hope that helps with that question. I answered the skincare. Okay, and then why was my divorce so expensive? Okay, so I've been divorced twice. For those of you that don't know, I was married at 23 years old. I was married for 9-10 years, and then divorced at like 32. Easy peasy as far as divorces go. I mean, not easy, still emotionally devastating. But he's the father of all three of my children, and we were able to work out a settlement between us. Now, at the end of the day, we did have to have independent legal counsel in order for it to be legally binding. And I do remember that when I so him and I worked it out, and then we took it to our lawyers. And I remember my lawyer was actually really reluctant to sign off, because he thought that I could get a lot more support, and I knew I could get a lot more support. I knew that, but I was willing to forgo the support that I was entitled to, because I knew that if I took that much, then he would be struggling to offer still a nice home for the kids, where they could have their own room and have a nice backyard and continue to play their sports. I didn't want to strap him. That was not my intent. And so we had independent legal counsel, and we were both satisfied with the division of the assets. Now, in the second marriage, there was a lot more wealth that had been accumulated. Now, when I met him, because I was accused of being a gold digger, when I met him, he moved into my home. He was living in a friend's basement, renting a room in a basement apartment. But during the course of our relationship was when all the wealth was accumulated. However, when you're dealing with someone with that personality type, he felt it was all his, and then he did not want to part with it because he started a company while we were together. Only started after we got together. That's neither here nor there. And so when you are the person with the money, and when you are the person that feels not betrayed, but feels let me put it this way. It was a massive narcissistic injury for me to say I wanted a divorce. And when somebody has a narcissistic injury, they want to win at all cost. And so when you have an imbalance of power and resources and money in the court system, you will not bode well, because they have all the money to fight it and to keep it going in hopes that you will give up. And you, without the money, I had not been working for 10 years, really had to, at the end of the day, just give up. But I fought it for 3 years, and I fought it because I think at one point he wanted to offer me $500,000, which, you guys, it's a lot of money, but not when it comes to what was accumulated: cottage, home, vacation properties, multiple luxury cars, lots of wealth. And my lawyer felt that he was not working in good faith, and that it was ridiculous. And I mean, she was great. Now, in hindsight, looking back, I felt like my lawyer and his lawyer were the ones that were really duking it out. And so there was just a lot more money at stake, and he had all the money in the world to fight it. And so at the end of the day, I did give up. I stopped fighting it. I used half of the proceeds from a condo that was sold in Florida that was in both our names to pay the lawyers. And then I was done. I'm like, that's it. I don't want to fight this anymore. I want this done. And so I ended up getting half of the matrimonial home, which was enough for me to buy my own home that I'm quite happy with. And so that's why it was so expensive. The more money that is involved, the more expensive it is going to get. And just be careful that you don't get caught up in the legal system and in the legal war between the lawyers. Just be careful of that. And that's all I want to say on that. That's all I want to say on that. At the end of the day, I didn't care. Take everything, have it all. I need to be done. I need to get off this roller coaster ride. I need to be done with you. I need to be done with this chaos this stress that I have been under for the last 3 years. Have it all. I don't care. I will figure it out. And see, back to maybe hyper-independence does bode well for you at some point in your life. I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. Failure is not an option, and I will not lie down and die here. And I didn't. I got my home, and then, if you haven't seen my video on how I was able to support myself with no job, no support, nor spousal support, and no income coming in, I've done a video on that. And so that is why that divorce was so expensive. There was just a lot more at stake than in my first divorce with my first husband. But I have to say that my first husband was so reasonable. He really was. He was so reasonable and just so emotionally mature that we were able to just figure it out. Did I say that we bought a house around the corner from each other? Did I mention that? Yeah, so that the kids could have access to both parents at any time. I did a video on that too, how to minimize the trauma and the stress of divorce on your kids. So we bought a house around the corner from each other so the kids could just go back and forth whenever they pleased. Anyway, that's it. I wanted to make this under 10 minutes and it's already at 15. So thank you to all the new subscribers. I hope this was helpful to you. Share this video if you think that there's somebody that might need it, or share any of my videos that might, if you have friends or family members that maybe are struggling, need encouragement, need inspiration, need, I don't know, empowerment, or whatever it is that, maybe they're on their journey of rebuilding and creating a new normal for themselves, then share the video with them if you think it's helpful. Thank you guys for being here with me on this journey of rebuilding a kick-ass life, and I'll see you in the next video.